All right, what's going on? It's 3 o'clock, Chad here. The wild card is underway in baseball. The Cubs top the Padres 3-1 at Wrigley to take game one in the NL wild card. In the American League, Tigers double up the Indians, the Guardians, 2-1. They take game one. At 3 o'clock, coming up on ESPN, the Red Sox and Yankees from New York, Crochet and Fried. Your pitching matchup at 6 on ESPN. The Reds are in Los Angeles to meet the Dodgers. It'll be Green against Snell. From the NFL, Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill underwent surgery to repair a dislocated knee. He is going to miss the rest of the season. The Rip City Drive with Chad Doing is coming up next. Alex Brink will join the show to talk ball at 5:20. We're going to have a conversation with Aaron Fentress, who was at the game in Penn State. You're also going to hear my conversations with both Chauncey Billups and Joe Cronin here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, looking forward to the show today. We have a couple of big things going on. First off, you're going to hear my conversation with both Chauncey Billups and General Manager Joe Cronin. Chauncey will be on the show at 4, Joe Cronin at 5. Also coming up at 5 o'clock, it is the first edition of Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. And for those of you who don't know, what we do every Tuesday throughout the entire basketball season is we give away tickets to Trailblazer games. And we do it every Tuesday, Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. So what I'm trying to tell you is that, as I mentioned before, I am a man of the people, and my job is to make sure that you're happy, and the best way to do that is to help you take in free basketball. The only thing better than sports is free sports. And so if I can provide you with Trailblazer tickets, I will do so. So that's going to come up at 5 o'clock before we hear from Joe Cronin. Every Tuesday throughout the entire basketball season, it's Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday here on the Rip City Drive, courtesy of me and your Portland Trailblazers. So we'll do it at 5. We're going to talk to Aaron Fentress, who was on the trip to Penn State for the Oregon-Penn State game. He's going to join the show at 4:20. And I'll ask him the very simple question, are the Ducks the best team in the country? Because it sure looks like they probably are the best team in the country right now. And I know for you Beaver fans or other college football fans, you don't want to hear it. But if you take a look around the country, and we're going to find out a lot more about Miami this weekend when they take on Florida State. That's a big-time matchup. Can Mario Cristobal continue to stay out of his own way and allow his team to do what they've been doing? And that's dominating at the line of scrimmage, getting good quarterback play, and being very opportunistic on defense. So we'll find out more. But right now, Oregon looks pretty legit. I think Ohio State is dominant at the line of scrimmage. Their defense has been great. They smothered Washington. I just have question marks about their offense and whether or not they're going to be able to produce points. Maybe it doesn't matter when you got defense and the type of speed they have on defense, but right now Oregon looks legit. I also think the other team that caught my eye is Ole Miss. I watched that entire game against LSU. Lane Kiffin's got a squad. And the play design, I think it's Charlie Weiss Jr. Charlie Weiss's son is on that staff. He's the one who is calling plays, helping design the offense. It looks really good. And Trinidad Chambliss, which is a sweet name, he's doing a heck of a job. He had a big game. I like the energy he brings to the field. So there are some candidates, but Oregon's right there. And if you take a look at the schedule, it certainly would appear that Ohio State and Oregon are on a collision course for the Big Ten title game. And all these other teams in the Big Ten, Illinois, Michigan, it doesn't matter who you pick. They can put an egg in their shoe and beat it, all right? There's only 2 legitimate contenders in the Big Ten. And Penn State, until further notice, should not be taken seriously. They didn't belong in the playoff last year, and they sure as hell don't belong this year. If you don't beat anybody or win any game of consequence, why in the heck should you be in the playoff? And you know they're going to put Notre Dame in too. They have 2 games of consequence. They lose both, Miami and Texas A&M, and yet they'll still find a way to meander into the playoff. It's a bunch of nonsense. It's poppycock, but they're in. And Penn State hasn't won a big game in forever. Good job, James Franklin. but they're going to get into the playoff. Based on what? They had the weakest non-conference schedule going into the Oregon game. They didn't play anybody. They were last in strength of schedule. And just like they do every year, when a big team shows up on their schedule, it doesn't matter, home, road, whatever, they lose. And look, I like James Franklin, but I'm just saying he doesn't win big games. In fact, what's that stat again? James Franklin's now 1-15 against top 5 opponents. Is that bad? Hey, James, and any Penn State fan out there, you're all annoying. Stop selling me on why your team needs to be in the playoff. And the thing is, most Nittany Lion fans understand it. They're like, we don't win big games because our coach can't get over. And I like James Franklin. But as Bill Parcells would often point out, you are what your record says you are. James Franklin is 1-15 against top 5 opponents. As Cam Ward would say, that's ass. That's what that is. But there you have it. Penn State will find a way to get in. So will Notre Dame. And it's annoying. So Aaron Fincher's at 4:20. Alex Brink at 5:20. You'll hear my conversation with Chauncey at 4, and then Joe Cronin at 5. And you're also going to have a chance to win Trailblazer tickets coming up at 5 o'clock. Now, if you want to talk to me, the telephone number, it's very simple, 503-248-0620. I'd love to know your take on the question I just asked. Are the Ducks the best team in the country? Are they? And can you put aside your biases to be able to answer the question? All right? That's really what you have to do. I understand that sports hate is sports hate, and it's hard for some of us to recognize what's real, but I've been very impressed with Oregon. And I said before the year began, I thought they would be better than last year based on the talent that Dan Lanning continues to amass and the quarterback play from Dante Moore. But Dante Moore looks like a bad boy. And right now he's the odds-on favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. And if you look at Oregon's schedule, I mean, he's going to be right in a position to do it. And then before you know it, Dan Lanning is going to be like Lincoln Riley, where he can go to a quarterback and say, look, I'm a defensive guy, but I can tell you if you come play quarterback for me, you're going to be in a position to win the Heisman Trophy. And that was Lincoln Riley for years. It's like, look, if you play quarterback for me, I can literally guarantee you the Heisman. But that's what Dan Lanning is doing. He's got great coaches around him. He's recruiting the heck out of the country. Oregon's got the money to be able to compete with the best of the best, and their facilities are phenomenal. Now, what else do you want in a football program? Who was I talking to yesterday? I can't remember, but it was someone that's been around the program for a long time, and they're absolutely stunned that Oregon's in a position to where they're basically every year now they're in contention for the national title. I mean, there was a day and age back in the day when reaching the Independence Bowl was a reason to celebrate. It's wild what they've been able to do and how Dan Lanning just continues to take it to another level. But I think when you look around the country right now at the top teams, Ohio State, great defense, strong at the line of scrimmage, but their offense is a little bit amiss right now with their young quarterback, Julian Sand. Oregon, their non-conference schedule was not great. It was better than Penn State's, but they proved it with the victory on Saturday over the Nittany Lions. Dante Moore has been great. What I love about Dante Moore in that game, it wasn't the big plays that he made. It was the plays he didn't make. He played with poise. He was under control, and he did not make a big mistake. And sometimes being a great quarterback is just not making the big mistake. Understanding down and distance, understanding the situation, not trying to force it into something. And by playing smart and by protecting the football, especially in a road environment, and understanding that your defense is balling out, just be smart with the football. Live to play another down. Don't try to force anything. And I love it when quarterbacks understand the situation and they play with poise and under control. And I thought Dante Moore did that well. But the defensive line, I mean, it really shut down Penn State's run game for most of the game and put Drew Aller in third down in difficult situation. They controlled the game. And that's what you want to see. And the Ducks continue to run the football. They went on the road. They outrushed Penn State. Their quarterback outplayed Drew Aller, and they controlled the game. But the balance in the Ducks' offense is what gives me great optimism for them moving forward. So I think Ohio State's defense is legit, but I need to see more from their offense. Oregon is terrific. I think Miami has been one of the more impressive teams I've seen so far this year. We'll get a much better feel for the Hurricanes after this game coming up this weekend against Florida State. And I think it has a good reason as to why Florida State got punked by Virginia on Friday night. Because young kids get excited. They look ahead. They see the big game with Miami, and they're like, who's Virginia? And you go out there and you stub your toe. But that's coming up on the 4th, October 4th, this Saturday. It's a 4:30 kick on ABC, Miami at Florida State. We'll find out what Florida State's all about. Was the opening week win against Alabama a mirage? Will they bounce back at home and beat Miami and solidify themselves? I mean, this game right here is really a battle for the ACC because the two best teams are Miami and Florida State. So I'm loving that game. It's going to be awesome. But Miami right now, I think what's impressed me the most is just the offensive line. And it's not a surprise with Mario Cristobal. No one is better at building an offensive line than him. But the way they're able to run the football between the tackles and really control and the protection they've given Carson Beck, that group has been wildly impressive. I mean, I got to tip the cap to Mario Cristobal. Now he just has to prove that he can go a full 60 minutes in a big game without putting on the dumb cap because he scares me. He scares me a lot. And I would imagine Hurricane fans across the country are, gripping right now because they know going into a big game against Florida State that the Mario Cristobal factor could come back to bite them. But so far, so good. He managed it. He tried to give it away against Notre Dame, but he held on. Maybe that was a step in the right direction. Outside of that, Ole Miss, I think, is legit. Ole Miss and Oregon might be the two best teams in the country. Ole Miss in that win over LSU, they were the better defensive team. They were the more physical team. And what I've seen with their offense and the play design, good balance between the run and the pass. And Trinidad Chambliss was spectacular. But Lane Kiffin's a good coach. I love Lane Kiffin. Obviously, Weiss Jr. is doing a good job with the offense, but I like what I see from Ole Miss. Thought they were solid in that game. They're now 5-0, Ole Miss. And coming up on their schedule, let's see what they have to deal with. Washington State on October 11th, and then they got back-to-back doozies at Georgia, at Oklahoma, before they come back home for South Carolina. They get the bye week against the Citadel in early November, and they finish up home against Florida at Mississippi State. That's a manageable schedule once they get past Georgia and Oklahoma. But Lane Kiffin's got himself a squad. Ole Miss looks like a definite playoff team right now, but a lot can change. Oklahoma is unquestionably one of the best teams in the country, and their defense is awesome. The problem is they got to deal a few weeks without John Mateer. And they've got this young quarterback, Hawkins, who's going to be stepping into quarterback. I hope he had some offseason development because the guy I saw play last year, the same guy, Hawkins, not good. But he just needs to learn the same thing. Okay, my defense is awesome. If I just don't make a big, dumb mistake out there and allow my defense to be in a good position, we have a chance to win every game. Fortunately for him, he gets a bye week against Kent State this Saturday before things start to get really difficult. And that's very helpful. But we'll see how it plays out. But Oklahoma with Mateer, great. Without Mateer, to be determined. I think Texas A&M is legit. They got the win at Notre Dame. Penn State's a fraud. Indiana, I don't know. They might be great, and they might just be okay. We'll find out more, but they're coming to Oregon. Who would have thought that Oregon and Indiana was going to be this monster Big Ten game midway through the season? And Cignetti, he bothers me the same way that Sean Payton does. He's very arrogant. I think he's a good football coach, but he obviously knows what the heck he's doing. Because if you can get Indiana to play good football, it's a basketball school. I didn't even know they played football, for crying out loud. But he's got them playing good football. All right, telephone number 503-248-0620. You can jump on board and talk to me if you want. You can always listen live and podcast the show via our free iHeartRadio app. Just a reminder, Chauncey Billups, my conversation with him at 4. Joe Cronin at 5. Aaron Finchers at 4:20 and Alex Brink at 5:20. But Trailblazer Ticket Tuesdays at 5, your chance to win our first Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday of the season. All right, you got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Rip City Radio wants to line your pockets with courtside cash. Be listening for the keywords every weekday from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. on the 15s for your chance to win $1,000 13 times a day. It's courtside cash. Get all the details at RipCityRadio.com. All right, I just found out something during the break I was unaware of, but apparently my engineer and producer, Brendan Slaughter, is a jerk. I walked out of the studio, and I was going down to the little break area to get some water. We got this sweet little water machine down there to get some fresh water that I used to drink, and I put it in the Nespresso machine. As I walked out of the studio and came around the corner, Brendan, who had just came out of the bathroom, I assume, looked back, saw that it was me, and then he sped up his walk so he'd get away from me. And it's like, do I stink? And I'm like, no, I just took a shower and I got some good cologne on. I'm smelling good right now. Brendan, what's the deal, man? I saw you trying to avoid me. It made me feel uncomfortable.
You know I love you, Chad. So I'm coming out of the bathroom. I hear the studio door open. I thought maybe you were going to follow, and come into the bathroom. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just, move around the corner kind of quickly. Then when I'm like, oh, I hear footsteps. I turn back around. I'm like, oh, Chad's behind me. I'm like, what's up, Chad? I didn't completely ignore you. But, yeah, I guess that's the name of the game in these hallways.
Well, it could have been one of those situations where I have done this before. And because our bathrooms are set up in such an awkward spot, because I walk out of the studio door and I turn to my right, I'm just a few steps away from the bathroom, which is also close to the Brew Studios. And I've gone in there before, and on occasion, if you destroy the bathroom and it stinks, I don't want anyone to know that I'm associated with what took place in there. So it's one of those moments where I wish I could be invisible. So I'll peek out the door and make sure the coast is clear, and I'll get the heck out of Dodge because I don't want anyone to know or associate me with what they might experience if they walk by that area of the office.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, Chad.
So I thought maybe you might be doing that where you're like, no. Oh, crap, Chad's going to know I was in there.
I wish I could make that claim, but no, just a quick little number one for Brendan in the old bathroom this time. But it's interesting, Chad, because, those who are listening to us, we don't have, like you have to go outside of our studio to get to, what is a normal bathroom. These are one-person bathrooms for basically the entire floor without going outside of the building. So we kind of have an interesting layout here, Chad, and I agree. If you're the one that's going to blow it up, man, you don't want to leave any wake.
No, I do like one-person bathrooms, too. I don't need to be doing anything in any bathroom and have other human beings be in there. I don't like public setups. It's very awkward. We have a Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday at 5 o'clock, your first chance to win. It's going to be every Tuesday throughout the entire season, so you got to jump on board, all right? Telephone number 503-248-0620. The wild card round in Major League Baseball is underway, and it's awesome. You got to love playoff baseball. There's nothing like it. And how about Scooble for the Tigers? 13 Ks today. That ties a mark set by Clayton Kershaw back in the day. They topped the Guardians 2-1. Detroit takes game one. And the Cubs over the Padres in Chicago 3-1. Red Sox and Yankees, top of the second in New York. They're scoreless. And coming up later on this evening from L.A. at Dodger Stadium, Dodgers and Reds, Green and Snell is your pitching matchup. Telephone number 503-248-0620. You're going to hear my conversation with Chauncey Billups at 4, and then Joe Cronin at 5, and then Alex Brink at 5:20. Aaron Fincher's talking Ducks primarily coming up at 4:20. But I want you to hear my conversation that I had with Drew Holiday, one of the newest Blazers who comes in with a ton of experience. 2-time gold medal winner for Team USA in the Olympics. Also a 2-time champion. Great defender, great leader, considered arguably the best human being and teammate in the entire NBA. And a guy who is now settled in town and very happy to be here. But this guy was brought in for a couple of different reasons. One, because they believe he can help them win right now. 2, because he can play in a variety of different ways, with the ball in his hand or without. And he can play on the floor without the ball in his hand and allow some of the younger guys, whether it be Denny or Scoot or Shaden, to initiate offense. And he can play big minutes, and he's still got a lot left in the tank. And also his big number, contract-wise, not a big issue for the Blazers right now because their young core is relatively inexpensive. But the first thing I did with Drew was welcome him to town.
Thank you.
You were just telling me that you are now settled in with the fam.
Yeah, we're locked in. Locked in, ready to go. Everybody's in school and doing what we're supposed to do, so it's been great.
What do you and your wife think of the area so far? The vibe?
Oh, it's beautiful. Everybody here is like genuinely nice. Kind of quiet, slow paced. They do drive kind of slow.
Yeah.
But again, everybody out here has been really cool.
Yeah, the one thing that's neat about Portland, I think, of all NBA towns, and you've played in multiple places, the connection between team and community that's really existed since they won the championship back in '77. Like, when you come in and play hard, like, the fans will embrace you, and they'll consider you one of them forever.
Yeah, that's cool. I feel like that's what we play for, just to be able to feel a part of that community, because sometimes we might be here just for a short stint. So, again, it's been pretty seamless, our transition here. So
that's great.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
I know a lot of times athletes will ask, other players, like, hey, what do you know about this area? Maybe the coaching staff or whatever. But, Dame, obviously you're friends with Dame, and he loves Portland. Like, what were some of the things that he told you about the Portland area when you knew you were going to be out here?
He said this was home. He said his whole family's out here. And that means a lot, especially just two Cali kids where obviously he grew up in Northern California and I grew up in Southern. But that coming from him is big, just how comfortable he is out here and how much he loves it. And we already knew that the city loved him, but sometimes a lot of people don't stay in the city.
Yeah.
Even like in the off season.
That's right.
But he does, and he loves it here, so it's been great.
Now, you are the middle brother to Justin and Aaron. I'm just curious, like, what was the competition like when you guys were growing up?
It was good stuff, man. It was a lot of competition. Actually, I had a sister too, or I have a sister that plays basketball. She played at UCLA, and it was a lot of 2-on-2, where we got to beat up on each other. Me and my older brother Justin are 14 months apart, so there was a lot of one-on-one there growing up early. And then by the time I got in the NBA, maybe like 3 or 4 years, my little brother became around like 14, 15, and he started really showing signs of just being that dog and being super aggressive. So we got a lot of workouts and one-on-one and stuff in too. But my whole life I've had built-in workout partners. I've had guys to go up against. I don't have any complaints about finding somebody to go and just run around the streets with.
That's great. What I like, my brother is older by a few years, and whether it was on the driveway playing pickup basketball or on the ski slopes, like, he would always push me, and I had to keep up with him, right? And if I wanted to hang with him, that's fine, but you got to keep up. And so that pressure, actually, at the time, I thought I hated it, but it forced me to be better.
Man, I didn't even think about it as pressure. I just always saw it as an opportunity because obviously me being younger than Justin, it was like I wanted to be like him. I wanted to, the stuff that he was doing, I wanted to do what he was doing. So I don't know if he found me annoying or what, but he's definitely one of the biggest reasons why I am here today, just looking up to him and trying my best to just be more and more like him and be better.
That's cool. We're talking to Drew Holiday. I know you've won 2 NBA titles, but you also have 2 gold medals. And I remember Kobe once saying that, putting on the gold medal for Team USA meant more than anything you could possibly imagine. I was just wondering what that experience was like for you.
It was an awesome experience. The first time me, Dame, Jeremy, we all won in Tokyo in 2021/2020. And that was a COVID year, and it was a bit different. You didn't really get to experience the Olympic experience because of everything was pretty shut down.
Yeah.
Being able to see like your countrymen win other sports and be able to go and support them. But this last 2024 was really, really cool to, go see ping pong, go see track and field, see volleyball, see gymnastics, to go watch soccer, to be able to experience that as a fan. And to know that, like, I'm there to support my country and just how proud I am that other teams or other sports were just successful in winning gold medals and representing our country.
What type of activities do you and your wife Lauren enjoy doing when, you're not following basketball or at a game? What kind of things do you guys like to do?
We've both kind of gotten into golf a little bit.
Oh, nice.
So us talking about golf earlier was pretty seamless, but we enjoy it and don't enjoy it. It's a difficult, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
And I think as competitors, my wife and I, it's a good challenge where, you hit 1 or 2 of those shots and it's like, man, I should be able to do this all the time. And then 25 of the shots are just going left and right in whichever way. But I think the thought that we can perfect something is something that keeps us going.
I wanted to ask you about the game. I'm obsessed with golf, and I play frequently. I was talking with Donovan Klingen earlier, who's picked up the game. What I notice are the days I enjoy the most on the course are like when I get off to a rough start, and then I have to keep my mind together so it one mistake doesn't become 4 or 5 mistakes.
Because you can crash. You can definitely, and the whole round is ruined then.
Yeah. But can't you take some of that into like basketball and other things you do about, I would imagine as you get older in the game, like your mind and the thought process that you go through to keep focused, maybe after a bad quarter or a bad half or whatever, you can apply those things, right?
1,000%. You can apply it to another sport. If it's you start off the game and you miss your first couple shots, you have to stay in it. If you have a couple turnovers here, sometimes you have turnovers deep into the game, 2-3 minutes left in the fourth, but you keep the right mindset and you come up with a steal. Great timing with 30 seconds left. That's all about keeping that mentality, and then to that, like, it moves off the court. Off the court, it could be the same thing if you have a different type of job, or if I'm late to something to something going on or whatever it is. I think having mental fortitude is something that sports can definitely teach you for a lot of different parts of life.
Who's a better athlete, you or your wife?
My wife, and I'm not even going to argue that. She,
legit. She's awesome.
Yeah, she did it. She's done everything before me. She's done it better than me. My wife has won 2 gold medals in soccer. She and in the women's soccer league, she's won 2 championships, and I think she has an MVP. So she is a lot better than I am.
That's great. I know you're into local fresh foods. You're a big sushi fan. I have become a huge sushi fan. I really like nigiri. But what's your go-to roll that you like?
I'm more of a nigiri fan.
Oh,
the rolls I usually let my wife choose. She's way better at choosing rolls. But nigiri, there's obviously like yellowtail I love.
That's awesome.
There's toro, the fatty tuna that I love. And I don't know, just having that fresh taste has always been. Starting off, I didn't really care or like it.
Yeah, me too.
Thought it was kind of weird.
Gross, yeah.
Yeah, but it's really, really delicious. So.
Well, talk to Donovan. He informed me this morning that he loves to fish for tuna.
Oh, nice.
So
that's
that can
that's
be work right
yeah,
there.
Yeah, for sure. I'd probably rather go lift weights than. I mean, sometimes they spend so much time trying to reel in that tuna. Yeah.
Well, Drew, it's a pleasure. I'm excited to have you in town because, we've only heard great things about you, but I've enjoyed watching you from afar, and now to have you on the same team with Damon and everyone else is going to be awesome. So it's nice to meet you.
Thank you for having me.
How great is that guy? You think Drew Holiday might fit in well in the locker room? I mean, that's the type of guy they got, and that's who he is. He's been like that no matter where he's been at all of his stops. And you've seen him play throughout his career. I mean, he's tenacious. He's a great defender. We saw him basically turn Dame and CJ into a prison movie in the playoffs back in 2017. Like, there are just certain players where once you add them to the mix, it's like, okay, that's going to work. You can put him on any team. He's going to be a difference maker because of his work habits, his attitude, the way he approaches the game, the way he's able to connect with his teammates. He's terrific. So I'm very excited to see Drew Holiday play. And, the more that I heard from, just the different conversations that went on yesterday, especially with comments from both Shaden Sharp and Jeremy Grant, it sounds like we're going to have a starting lineup that would include Drew Holiday, Denny Avdia, Donovan Klingen, Tamani, and Jeremy, with Shaden coming off the bench. But Drew Holiday is going to be terrific. And he's really the prototypical Chauncey Billups type. Tenacious, tough defender, hard-nosed, works hard. I mean, he's everything that Chauncey wants in a player, so it's a good mix there. And credit to Joe. They've done a good job of kind of building a locker room with quality dudes. And that's the way this team is composed right now. A lot of quality guys. And I'm not just saying that. Like, we've seen different years, different teams. There's been years where the Blazers haven't had a locker room full of good dudes, but this team is that team. So there you have it. Drew Holiday, big fan, and my prediction for him is very simple. It doesn't take a genius to figure this one out. He's going to step onto the floor, and it won't take long until Trailblazer fans fully embrace Drew Holiday because of the way he works, his attitude, his approach, everything. They're going to fall in love with him because he's a baller. And he's one of those guys that will do whatever is asked of him on the basketball floor by the coaching staff. He'll embrace his role. He'll go out there and ball out. But I think that's a quality human being right there. He and his wife, his entire family, the way they approach everything. And he'll be a perfect mix right here in Rip City. So I think you don't need to worry about, well, what if Drew's not happy? Well, of course, when you get traded initially, you may not be thrilled, especially if you're playing for one of the best franchises in the history of the game and you're getting shipped out to a team that's gone through a rebuild. But now the Blazers are in a different spot. They got more experience. They've got better talent. They've got depth. They've got a team that can win games. And it's going to be very helpful to have someone like Drew Holiday, on the floor and playing big minutes. Now, going back to the question I have for you, are the Oregon Ducks, based on what you've seen thus far, the best team in the country? And I have to say yes. We'll find out a lot more about Miami coming up this weekend. LSU early in the year was great. Their defense is terrific, but they've suffered some injuries and their offense is a miss. I don't know if Nussmeier he's not 100%, and he's not accurate in delivering the football on time. He's struggled against Ole Miss. So that's a problem. I think Miami's got a chance. They look really good. That offensive line is playing top-notch. Oklahoma was definitely one of the best teams, but now John Mateer is out. And with that injury, we don't know how things are going to go with Hawkins at quarterback. I think I know, and it's not going to be great. So until Mateer comes back, I don't think you can put Oklahoma in the mix. But I think what we've seen from Oregon thus far, and we got a long ways to go, they're right there. Good enough to win and beat anybody. But right now they're on that collision course with Ohio State. And I think for the Buckeyes, great defensively. They're still sorting through some issues on offense. I mean, they lost a ton of talent off that team that won the title last year. And with their young quarterback, he's still getting comfortable. That's the advantage of having Dante Moore. He played early at UCLA. Then he comes back to Oregon and is able to sit, study, and learn on the bench behind Dylan Gabriel. So when he did step in, now he's more mature. He's got a better handle on the offense. He's got playing experience. So you're getting a brand-new quarterback who's young, but you're not having to go through all the bumps along the way that you have with a young quarterback with no experience. But that's the advantage of Dante Moore. I just thought the composure and the way that he handled himself in that game against Penn State, not making the big mistake, not forcing the issue, and making plays when he had to. It was pretty awesome. And the Ducks able to win the battle up front. They beat Penn State at their own game. Lower scoring game, won at the line of scrimmage, and the Ducks did it. And Penn State once again falls in a big game. That's just what they do. All right, 503-248-0620. That's your telephone number. You're going to hear Chauncey Billups coming up at 4. And then Aaron Fentress, who's on that trip covering the Ducks, will join the show at 4:20. You can reach out to me, 503-248-0620. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Don't forget, Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday at 5 o'clock. All right, sales staff's out of control. Just got people walking in studio right before I'm about to go on air. Just start talking with me. Don't mind me. I'm just trying to do a radio show here. It's no big deal. All right, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. And you can always join us on YouTube as well. Go to youtube.com, pull up our homepage, Rip City Radio 620. Everyone is welcome. You can check out the live stream. I got my sweet Pat Tillman PT 42 shirt on right now that I got down in Arizona a couple of weeks ago. And just looking forward to college football. The problem is this past weekend was orgasmic, for lack of a better phrase. And I checked out the schedule, and there's a couple of decent games, but I know it's not going to be what it was last weekend. It was such a great football weekend. I wish I could go back. You ever had these moments in life where you're like, man, that was awesome? And you wish you could like jump on a time machine or somehow rewind the clock to go back and relive all of it. I wish I could go back to about Friday evening when I first started watching Florida State, Virginia, right into TCU and ASU, right into Oregon State, Houston, into Saturday morning with USC and Illinois. And then 12 straight hours of football on Saturday. I just want to relive all of it. It was awesome. It's the type of weekends we love. And then Sunday with the great action. I'm still blown away by Matt Stafford. You know, I thought the Rams might be in trouble. Usually when your starting quarterback doesn't participate at all during summer camp because he's got a back injury and he's an older quarterback, that's a bit of a concern. Apparently he's okay because I watched him play this Sunday against the Colts, and it's like he can still whip it around the field. And that touchdown pass at the end of the game for 88 yards, the walk-off shot, pretty good. I like Stafford, man. Smart. I'm going to ask Alex Brink about him. Like, Matthew Stafford's a cool dude. I like that guy, and he's a very good quarterback. And the Rams, numbers-wise, are going to be the best team in football. The Eagles also really good, but their wins, they've been struggling a bit on offense. And once again, they put up basically a donut in that second half against the Bucs, and it nearly cost them. But I know the Eagles are going to be fine. And I love Sean Payton, too. He just came out and he's like, oh, yeah, the tush push, safest play in football. The Broncos will play at Philadelphia on Sunday. And I agree. I don't think the tush push is any more dangerous than any other football play. I think everything you do on a football field is dangerous. That's why we love it so much. It's crazy. Those guys are wild. Strap up, put on the helmets, got the pads, 300-pounders running like 4.40s, ramming into each other. It seems safe to me. I love watching it because I don't have to do it. That's why I admire football players, because they're tough. But there you have it. The tush push, according to Sean Payton, the genius, the safest play in football. And I got to give Sean credit. I was very critical at the start of last night's Monday Night Football game because the offense didn't look exactly sharp. They played pretty well last night. Bo Nix had that sweet 2-minute drill at the end of the first half where he made a couple of layered throws. And he's very mobile. He was showing off the arm strength. They won the game 28-3. It probably should have been 45-3, but they made a couple of other errors. And unfortunately, Bo did throw just a horrendous pick in the end zone. But they were good. And the defense, the Broncos defense, they're going to lead the NFL in sacks again this year. They get pressure. That looked good. But Philadelphia, obviously, a different test. The Cincinnati Bengals suck. They're unwatchable right now, as are the Jets and the Dolphins. You can probably throw the Saints into that group, too. Also, all Giant fans, I'm just going to let you know right now, your team is in trouble this weekend. Very difficult now for the young guy Jackson Dart to go on the road, play in a dome. This could be the game where Spencer Rattler finally gets over and gets a win. But we'll see. I thought Dart showed a lot of good signs against the Chargers. That was a good win. And Cam Scatterbo, my favorite, highest-rated running back in football right now, according to PFF. It's just great. I love watching Scatterbo. He wants contact. He's like one of the toughest guys I've ever seen. He's like, where's another guy I can ram into? Guy's awesome. I'm just happy to see him having success in the NFL. There are certain guys you just look at and you're like, I don't know what category to put him in. He's not fast. He's a little bit undersized, but he's really strong. He's just a football player. And football players know how to make plays. And that's how some of those guys get, a little bit unnoticed and maybe aren't recruited the way they should be coming out of high school. But once they get on a football field, they just naturally know how to make plays. And then their energy and their toughness and their willingness to just continue to go full speed at all times, it makes a difference. The guys like Scatterboo will create opportunities for themselves because they just are going to work harder than most everyone else. But the Bengals, it's terrible. No Joe Burrow. I feel bad for him. That team, a lot of fun with Joe Burrow, but without him, unwatchable. The Dolphins lost Tyreek Hill last night. Not exactly what they needed. They're a disaster, and the Jets suck. And Aaron Glenn doesn't like the fact that we all say same old Jets, but yet they are the same old Jets. They've been awful most of my life. But that was a hideous football game last night. But a good bounce back for the Broncos after back-to-back weeks of losses at the buzzer to both the Colts and then the Chargers. But I got to give credit to Indianapolis. They controlled most of that game against the Rams. They just had a couple of mistakes go against them. They had another guy run across the goal line but lose control of the football, and it goes out of the back of the end zone. Touchback, Rams get the ball. When you get too cute and those type of things happen, it's got to drive a coach insane. But I thought the Colts played well. Their defense brought a lot of pressure on Matthew Stafford. Daniel Jones made some big plays. Like, the Colts look like they're going to be a factor throughout the course of the year. Sometimes you can lose a game, but you win some of the battles, and you're like, okay, I know they didn't win that game, but I now know that the Colts appear to be legit this year. And you know what they remind me of? Last year when Sam Darnold took over for the Vikings. No one really knew what to expect, and the Vikings ended up being one of the best teams in football. And we're playing on the final day of the regular season against the Lions for the top seed in the NFC. And you had a guy like Darnold, the journeyman who had to battle his way back, have a monster year and got a brand new deal from Seattle. That's what Daniel Jones feels to me right now, where he's finally in a position where he's got better players around him. He's got an offensive line. He's got a good coach. He's got better play design. Like, he's got the tools that he needs to be successful. And if he continues to play within himself, he may be the next Sam Darnold where he has the big year and revives his career. But so far, he's been great. But that was a fun game. That was a fun game. And there were multiple games. I thought the Chiefs bounced back. The Giants game was ugly, but then they come out and just smashed the Ravens. The Ravens, I now believe, based on injuries, and now Lamar's not 100%. They got guys dropping like flies. The Ravens are in serious jeopardy right now. I would say right now, based on injury, and I'm not going to count them out because they got a good coach and they've got a good quarterback, but they're in trouble. They're in big trouble. They play Houston this weekend, and the line opened up as Ravens' big favorite. Now, all of a sudden, they're an underdog because of injury. And you drop to 1-4, there comes a point where making the playoffs almost becomes impossible. So you look at that AFC North right now. Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh is in. I think Pittsburgh's in a great position to make the postseason now with Aaron Rodgers. And they're kind of flying under the radar with a record of 3-1. All right, appreciate your time. Rip City Drive. When we come back, my conversation with Chauncey Billups. Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday coming up at 5 here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, wild card is underway in baseball. The Cubs topped the Padres 3-1 at Wrigley to take game one. In the NL, in the American League, Tigers, they get game one in Cleveland 2-1. Tarek Skubal broke a 53-year-old Tigers record with 14 strikeouts, and he topped 100 miles per hour 11 times. Right now in New York, the Yankees lead the Red Sox by a score of 1-0, top of the fourth. And coming up later on tonight, 6 o'clock, first pitch on ESPN. The Reds are in Los Angeles to take on the Dodgers. Green and Snell is your pitching matchup. From the NFL, the Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill underwent surgery to repair a dislocated knee. He is going to miss the rest of the year. And Broncos coach Sean Payton says the tush push may be the safest play in football. The Broncos will be in Philly to meet the Eagles on Sunday. Alex Brink talking ball with me at 5:20. Trailblazer ticket Tuesday at 5. All right, 20 minutes away from Aaron Fentress, who was in Happy Valley for the game against Penn State and Oregon. I'll ask him if Oregon's the best team in the country. That's coming up in 20 minutes. Alex Brink going to join me at 5:20. And we have Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday at 5. Your chance to win Trailblazer tickets each and every Tuesday throughout the entire basketball season. And after we give away tickets, you're going to hear my conversation with Joe Cronin. But first things first, let's hear from Coach Billups. Had a chance to meet with him yesterday, and I'm a big fan of Coach Billups. He's back on a new deal, and his team finished out the final 41, 23-18, and was a top 5 defensive team in the NBA, which is great. So they're making progress. Did I just slur that word? Progress? Progress. Come on, Chad.
You good, Chad?
Step your game up, man. I have not been sipping anything outside of coffee and water so far during the show. All right, but the first thing I did was I just gave him some props, congratulated him on getting a new deal and being back in town.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's some tough, lean years that are difficult to weather the storm there, and
especially for a guy who's used to winning all your basketball games, for crying out loud.
But yeah, I'm happy. I'm certainly happy to be back, and I agree with you, man. We finally established kind of how we are and who we are defensively halfway through last season.
Yes,
and I look forward to us getting even better there.
All right, so I've talked to a few people already this morning, but talk about that defense. Like, I was impressed with everyone, but the young core is what people are excited about. But what did you see from second half of the year? Defensive growth from Scoot Henderson, and then also the response from Shaden after he got placed on the bench and then came back in and paid more attention to that end. What did you see from the young guys defensively?
I thought I seen them just paying attention to the details. We wanted to be very disruptive, and I thought Scoot had some moments where he just really rattled some guys, out there, and he has the ability to do it, and the speed, the toughness, and the strength to do it. And then you mentioned Shaden, after taking Shaden out of the lineup, and he started playing well off the bench, and then when we put him back in the lineup, he continued to focus, and I thought he started to get better defensively, and it's the only way you're going to play a lot of minutes for me is to be able to just compete.
The moment when I knew that you were a darn good coach and that you had the players here, go back to the early part of last year. You guys get blown out at home by Memphis, and you came out after the game and said, if you're okay with that loss, you are a loser. And I was thinking, okay, this is a breaking point here. Then the guys came out and responded with a great effort and back-to-back wins over Minnesota. And when I saw that, I was like, dude, Chauncey's got their ear. What did you think about their response in that moment when you were highly critical of the lack of effort?
Yeah, I mean, it was just a rough game, and you'll have some of those games during the year. We'll have some games where we look terrible this year, But it's not about that. It's about the intent out there. Are you trying? Are you competing? And I didn't think that game we competed very well. and it was embarrassing. It really was. And yeah, I did. I said what I said. I meant that. And then the guys, we had a good meeting and talk and practice the next day, and the guys came out and started landing on the line, man.
Gosh, that's so awesome. We're talking to a Blazers coach, Chauncey Billups. You said something at the press conference after the draft that I thought was awesome. And I hadn't thought of it, but, in regard to young Hansen, you're like, hey, basketball is a universal language.
Mm-hmm.
And you started explaining that, and I thought about it. I was like, you're right. It's like, even if you don't speak fluent English, when you're on the floor as a teammate, guys understand the game. And so once you said that, Coach, I was like, okay, this isn't going to be as difficult of a process to get him up to speed as I had thought.
And it won't. And he's doing everything he can to catch up and get there. But, he's such a special young talent. I mean, he can do so many things that I don't have to teach him. He has the feel already. He understands his IQ is very, very high. So now you just worry about the things that you have to teach him and how quickly he can pick that up. But, it's 100% correct. I mean, basketball is basketball all over the globe. You want to play it together. You want moving and cutting. You want continuity, and sometimes just being a point, and connect out there, it brings the group together.
That's pretty awesome. The one thing I love about you coming back, or one aspect of it, is continuity. I'm a big believer in that. But I wonder, with you coming back and players understanding the system, having that young core that people are excited about, and you've got a lot of the same faces back on this roster, shouldn't that promote getting off to a better start, especially on the defensive end, to kick off this upcoming season?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Just having some familiarity, to your point, I think will be huge. The Western Conference is the Western Conference, man, and the best teams got better.
Yes.
And we obviously got some heavy hitters.
Not a lot of easy nights in the West.
Our first 13 games, I was looking at them, and it's probably 7 of those guys think they can win it all. So
yeah,
it's an uphill battle, but I'm not concerned with that. I'm more concerned with just us playing the right way, playing together, and being as disruptive as we can defensively.
All right, Drew Holiday, at least in my mind, this is how I look at it, Coach. I'm like, that guy is a perfect fit for the way Chauncey Billups wants to play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about a guy that can come in and help you right away, and Drew.
I am just so happy to have Drew Holiday, man. He's one of those guys that, to your point, I mean, he plays both ends of the floor. He's a great teammate.
Yeah.
He can play with the ball in his hands. He can play without the ball. He's just as effective either way. He's a knockdown shooter. He can guard the other team's best player. And he's a leader, man. And so I think having a guy like him, to be able to be in a locker room with Scoot and Shaden and Denny and Tumani and DC and all the young guys, and just let them understand what is important in our game. This guy's a 2-time champion, man. And he's done everything that you can do in the sport, and he's still hungry. And to be able to have him, and obviously bringing Dame back, to have just his presence around, I think it speeds up the development of all of our young guys. I really do.
And I was bummed to hear about the injury to Scoot Henderson with the hamstring. I'm like, dang it, man. It's like we have all this great news during the summer, and now he's going to be sidelined for a bit. What's your message to him? Obviously, he wants to be out there playing because you want to see that continued growth. But what do you tell him in a moment like this that's got to be frustrating for him?
Yeah. We had a good talk about it. I'm really so disappointed, man. I feel so bad for Scoot because, boy, was he taking a step. He was playing amazing, man.
So you like where he's at coming into the year?
I loved it. I loved it.
I love hearing that.
I couldn't wait for people to see. Scoot was playing so good. So anyway, I'm just so disappointed for him. And I just told him, all the work that you put in over the summer, don't worry, everybody's gonna see it. Everybody's gonna see it. We just got to take a pause for a second. And he's okay. He's made peace with it. It was a tough couple of days for him at first because he's put a lot in to this opportunity, and we all feel so bad for him. But we'll be here to support him, and he'll be back, and he'll do what he does.
Coach, Damian Lillard's back. I can't believe it. I was stunned when I got the news. I was like, no way. So walk me through the conversations. I talked to Joe earlier, and I asked him, I said, was the relationship icy back when the trade went down? He said, no, we were just we had different views on the situation. But when you got word that this was a possibility, what were those conversations like between you and Dame to get to a point where he's a Trailblazer once again?
Yeah, I mean, I never stopped communicating with Dame, in all honesty, and I've been, with him his whole couple years over there, just kind of being there, trying to be there for him. But when this thing became, we didn't even know if it was possible. When it became anything, we really started talking in depth about our team and how different we are now and how we don't play the same way we played when Dame was here. And
Yeah.
he loves it. He loves it. He loves our team. He loves these young guys and what they're able to do. And I said, the thing is, when you do get back, you're going to need these guys. You're going to need these guys to kind of help you out, just like they're going to need you. So I think it's going to be a perfect marriage once again. It just feels right to have Dame back in the fold, even though he can't play. It just feels right. It never felt right, not having him here.
You know what it feels like to me? Like when Dame being back in Rip City, it's kind of like the connection you have with Colorado.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where
Agreed.
it's like there's a special relationship that's just always going to be there, which I think is really cool when you get that in sport.
100%. 100%. I mean, he has the pride that he has in this community, obviously in this organization. I tell people around here all the time, this is not normal, even though Dame has made it kind of normal for the Oregonians, and they feel so connected to him. This is not normal.
Yeah. It's special.
It's very special.
All right. Talk to me about Tamani Kamara. I've talked to a few of his teammates. Apparently, he is a great teammate who truly cares and someone that will listen to his teammates. And obviously, we know what he's done defensively. But I got to give you props. Talk about the process that you did early in his career when you would go around to different officials, say, hey, this is Tamani Kamara. You need to get to know him because he's going to be tearing it up defensively. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important because if the officials don't know, then they're more likely to call a foul on a guy who's just actually in good defensive position.
Yeah. I knew very early on, like, Tumani's going to be one of the best defenders in our game.
It didn't take long for you to see that, did it?
No, I seen it in training camp. I seen it about 4 days in the 3 or 4 days in the training camp. I said, no, this dude here he's going to be one of the very best in our league. And so early on in the season, I wanted all the officials to understand and know, okay, y'all keep calling these fouls on him. He's learning, but he's going to be one of the best. I mean, he's going to be one of the very best in our game, and it's already shaping up that way. I thought he should have got first team all defense last year, but he will this year. So but what he's doing, even offensively, the way he's shooting the ball right now, and the way he's doing something, he's playmaking a little better, he's finishing a little better. He's taking another step, man, and it's I'm telling you, I don't know the levels that he could get to. I thought that he early on would be just
he's gonna be a first team all defense, isn't he?
Oh yeah,
first team easy.
Yeah, I definitely believe that he's going to be a first teamer, and I'm talking about multiple times.
All right, Chauncey Billups, head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers. Final question: how much more comfortable do you feel in your role as head coach today compared to when you started?
Yeah, it's night and day. It's night and day. I mean, I was walking in so excited, but I didn't know what was in front of me. I didn't know how I was going to handle those things, but I knew I was going to work my butt off to get better. I've done that. It's like night and day, how I see it. The game has really kind of slowed down for me. It's gotten better for me. It's gotten easier. My staff has gotten better.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited, man.
Well, thanks for your time. It's great to see you. Congratulations on the new deal, and looking forward to seeing
sir.
you guys ball.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate you, Chad.
Yeah, Coach Bell is pretty cool, and he's pretty excited about what he's got this year. You could hear the way he talked about Drew Holiday, right? With his, how many times did he say he was a leader? But that's the type of guy he is, and that's what he's going to bring, to the club. Leadership, toughness. Also spoke very highly of Tamani Kamara, and rightfully so, because of the play he brings, especially what he does on the defensive end. Chauncey Billups is cool. All right, we'll keep things rolling. We'll come back. Aaron Finchers was in Happy Valley. We'll get his take on the Ducks and how they're able to pull off that win. Are they the best team in the country? We'll find out next. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad Doing on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, he was in Happy Valley for the Oregon victory over Penn State. Aaron Finchers of the Oregonian joins us once again. Aaron, it was awesome that you were there at Penn State, man. Tell me about the experience. How was it seeing the whiteout and the energy before the game began?
First of all, what do you guys know about Tears for Fears in the working hour?
I know everything about Tears for Fears. In fact, I've turned my young Brendan into a Tears for Fears fan, and he recently went and saw him in concert.
You did? Where?
Down in Vegas.
Nice.
Yes.
I haven't seen them yet. They were actually at the zoo one time, and we were at the zoo accidentally with the kids and didn't realize they were there. And they would try to get tickets later, and it was sold out. But they were rehearsing while we were checking out the elephants.
Yes.
It was like all of a sudden the singers weren't up there yet, but the band was tuning up, and all of a sudden they just launched into "Everybody Wants to Rule the World," and it was just thumping. I was like, "Oh damn!" It started so good, and they did it so effortlessly. Almost like they pressed play on a CD player. And we looked over at the stage because you've been at the zoo before where the concert stage is.
Yes, sir.
And we looked down there and they're up there just jamming it, and then they just stopped. And we're like, "Damn, that sounded just like the record," and it was so cool. Anyway, sorry, I digress. Go ahead.
No. I love it, and it makes me proud when I see younger individuals getting into the music that you and I grew up with. It makes me happy.
It's amazing how that happens because they have so much access to it, right? Like there's some things my daughter listens to. Like she loves New Edition and she, of course, loves Michael. But she'll play some things from the 80s. I'm like, how do you even know that song? And what's funny is sometimes she won't know how old it is, really.
Yeah.
And I'll say, that's from like the 90s. She's like, really? And she just discovered it like maybe a month ago. So that's the access they had to music that we didn't necessarily have like that back then. But anyway,
and the good thing is the good music is good music, and the good songs stand the test of time.
Yep.
So even youngsters, once they're turned on to it, they're like, hey, that's good. And I'm like, yes, it is.
100%.
But so, dude, tell me about the atmosphere because all the buildup. I've never been to Happy Valley, but you were there, and over 100,000 people. Like, what was it like? Did it meet expectation or what?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. The whiteout situation was pretty nice. The fans were definitely rowdy. It was, pretty impressive to see, that many people, almost all of them in white. Of course, there were like 3,000 Duck fans off in the corner somewhere up high wearing orange, wearing green. And it was funny because you could see little pockets of like 2 or 3 people here or there around the stadium, spread out wearing green or yellow, whatever, but clearly a definite whiteout. When we were driving up, I was driving in with Bill Oram, our columnist, and I saw a few people in blue, and I almost wanted to yell out the window, "Did you not get the memo?" But clearly at least 98% got the memo. The thing, though, and I've seen other people talking about this, is that it really wasn't all that loud. Like, it was loud, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't blow your mind 111,000 people loud. So that was interesting. I guess that goes into the whole thing with acoustics and things like that with the stadium and how Autzen is so the way it's designed and built. It just keeps the sound in and ricochets it off the different parts of the stadium. So that was the one thing. And so it was loud. Don't get me wrong, but the visual of it all was more impressive than the loudness.
I would say Autzen and Seahawks Stadium are two of the loudest I've been to. Like, what stadium have you been to where the noise you're like, okay, this is real?
Oh, Austin's for sure. I thought Nebraska was really loud. I was there. God, what year? 16, I think. And I've really not felt anything the level of Austin. But no, Seahawks definitely. That place gets loud. I've told this story before, but I covered the 2000 6A football championships. It was Jesuit against like South Medford or something. And I was over on the visitors' sideline, the Jesuit sideline, and they were away from the main grandstands where everyone was sitting. And someone scored a touchdown, and I heard this roar behind me. And I looked back, and there was no one there. And I could have sworn there were several thousand people behind me. That's how much the sound ricocheted from the other side of the stadium, and rebounded back, reverbed or whatever it does, back to that side. So that gives you an idea of and that was like there were maybe 6,000 people there, and I could have sworn 3,000 at least were behind me, and they weren't.
That's awesome. We're talking to Aaron Finchers from the Oregonian, who was in Happy Valley for the Ducks win over Penn State. What aspect of that win was the most impressive? Was it the way that the Ducks defensive front controlled the run game of Penn State and forced Drew Aller into third down and long situations? Was it the poise and the way that Dante Moore was able to manage that game? Like, what jumped out at you?
So I do a Ducks podcast now with George Reister, former Oregon tight end and NFL tight end, called the Ducks Confidential Podcast. You can find it on YouTube. Yeah, YouTube. Sorry, he's a good friend of mine. And he let me have it, boy. He could not wait because I had two main storylines coming into this and why I thought Penn State would win. Number one, I didn't buy that Oregon could slow down the running game. Why? Because this is a really good running team in Penn State. They rushed for 297 on the Ducks last year. They averaged 200 in the playoffs last year. They were averaging 200 this year. They returned both their backs, Katron Allen and Nick Singleton. They returned, I think, 4 out of 5 starting offensive linemen. The math was mathing. Like, to me, they were going to rush for over 200 in this game. Why wouldn't they? So that was the first thing. It became clear to me 2 series in that not only was Penn State not going to have a great day rushing, but they almost appeared afraid to run the ball between the tackles. They were trying to be too cute. Teams that feel confident that they can ram it down your throat come out ramming it down your throat. They don't run roll right, throwback screens. They're not doing a bunch of misdirection to try and run fly sweep and be all cute and all. Like, they're coming at you. And they didn't do that. And I thought, this is telling me they really don't feel that confident. So I thought they were going to run the ball, and that was going to help Drew Aller, and they were going to score points. And so then the pressure would be on Dante to have a huge game. And then I questioned, could Dante answer that call, because he'd never done it before against a Power 4 team. You go look at his history. At UCLA, he had 3 good games early against mediocre competition, got into Pac-12, and he struggled, lost his starting job. This year, started out well, but again, not against great competition. So I'd never seen it before, so why am I going to believe it's going to happen at Happy Valley? And now he wasn't really put into too much pressure, like to try and carry the team. But what we saw was a guy who was completely in control of himself in this situation. You and I are big NFL fans. We've watched many NFL games, and we know, sometimes when the game's tight and, things are not going great offensively, quarterbacks, especially young quarterbacks, can tend to force things, right?
Yes.
They'll tend to try and make a play they shouldn't make. They'll be careless with the football, and they're trying to escape the pocket, and they're not taking care of it, and someone swats it from behind. Or they just force the ball into double, triple coverage, right? It's not unusual. And this, I say NFL because this kind of felt like an NFL game where, points are hard to come by, which is the kind of football I like, not these 55, 40 games. I hate those kind of things. But anyway, so what we saw, though, is that in that first half, things weren't going well, but he always remained in control. He wasn't forcing anything. He was taking what was there, and to Penn State's credit, not a lot was there. So he wasn't hurting the team. And then in the second half, back-to-back touchdown drives in which he was magnificent on, right? Because now things started opening up, and he was hitting them, and he hadn't hurt the team before that point, right? And so that I thought was just impressive because, the numbers weren't spectacular. He had 2 real touchdown passes. I don't consider a shovel pass a touchdown pass, just so we all know that right here. Like, that's not a real touchdown pass. It never will be. It's a handoff, but by rule, it's technically a pass. But anyway, but his numbers for that kind of game were spectacular because he was super efficient. And sometimes those types of games are way more impressive than the guy who throws for 375 and 6 touchdowns, because usually when you throw for 375 and 6 touchdowns, the other team sucks, right? The other team's defense is not good.
You're right.
They're not getting any pressure. Dudes are wide open. Like, I could point back to some Marcus games. Of course, we all know Marcus was great, but there were some games where he had huge numbers. And it was like, yeah, Marcus is good, but he ain't that good. The other team's brutal. Again, I'm not trashing Marcus. Don't get me wrong. I'm just making a statistical point that games like that are not always about the quarterback. They're often about the defense. In this case, you had a good defense at home, and you didn't have spectacular numbers, but you had a spectacular game because he was in such control. And then the big plays came when they had to come, especially the touchdown, the game-winning touchdown to Gary Bryant Jr. I mean, that's a situation, play fake. He looks up, there's a defensive end free or a linebacker, I can't remember, and he just slides inside under him and then moves to the right. He already knows Bryant is open. He probably pre-snapped it because it was a clear-out route, and then Bryant comes on a deep cross, and he just throws a strike on the move to him. And it was just like, I was like, that was Joe Montana, dude. That was like straight up 1980s Joe Montana. Slip the pass rusher, slide to his right, throw off balance on the run, a dart to right on a drag route, and it's a touchdown. So I was thoroughly impressed with his play in that game.
No, it's great. I do think, time will tell, but I do think this year's Ducks better than last year's team. But the thing that's impressed me the most, those 2 new tackles in Harkey and World they brought in from the portal, the offensive line continuity early in the season has been great. But what it's done, Aaron, is they've got the pop back in the run game. Going into the Penn State game, they're averaging like 7 yards per carry. The incredible balance in the offense. And last year, they ran the ball a bit, but they only averaged about 4.5 yards a carry. So it's nice to see that balance back in the offense where they can run the football, they can throw it, but they're keeping those defenses off balance, which is very helpful. They actually outrushed Penn State, for crying out loud.
Yeah, that was crazy. And they did it without, guys you would consider, marquee backs, which is what Penn State had. They're doing it with running back by committee. Noah is clearly a good running back, but he's not a guy you want to give the ball to 25 times. He's not, the biggest guy in the world. And then you've got, De'Aaron Hill, who's looking like a feature number one back. I mean, because that kid has that home run speed that LaMichael and DeAnthony and Kenyon Barnett had back in the day, even somewhat Verdell. And then that Davison kid, that dude, 6'2", 236, he moves too well. Like he could be the Ducks version of Jerome Bettis, so to speak. That guy's going to be phenomenal. And they're also young. And, of course, Jaden Lamar, who's been the number 2 back so far. He's obviously a good all-around back and very good in pass protection. So, yeah, it's an interesting running back by committee. And they did. They ran the ball well, and that line has come together. You had 4 new starters. Poncho, this center, was the only guy returning that was a starter, and they've come together pretty well, no doubt.
We're talking to Aaron Finchers of the Oregonian here on the Rip City Drive. So I've had a chance to watch. I've watched a lot of football. Is Oregon the best team in the country right now? And if it's not them, then who do you think is the best today?
We got in a big argument about this today on Talkin Ducks. So I don't believe in declaring these countries in September. Like, I think it's so early. I think Oregon's definitely in the mix, but they have one quality win, and it's not like they won it 30-10. They won it in overtime, and they blew the lead, and then they got it back. So I'm impressed, but I'm not going to sit here and say this makes them the best. There's other teams that have played more than one good team, and some of them have a loss. Are they necessarily worse because they have a loss? When they take Alabama, they just beat Georgia. Is that not more impressive than beating Penn State? I don't know. Who's better between Georgia and Penn State? But then, okay, you can say, well, Bama has a loss. Yeah, Bama lost to Florida State, which is a pretty good team, and Oregon hasn't played another team even close to Florida State other than Penn State. So there's just so many things that are up in the air right now because it's so darn early. Next week, Indiana's no joke. Like, Indiana clobbered Illinois, right? They're coming to town with a quarterback that's more efficient than Aller. If Aller were more efficient and reliable, they might win that game. And this kid Mendoza's coming in with 16 touchdowns, 1 interception. We're all impressed with Dante Moore with 14-1. This guy's got 16-1 and a drubbing of a top 25 team in Illinois. So I just think there's so much football to go that it's really impossible to make any kind of declaration. To me, Ohio State's the defending champions. They're looking amazing. Their defense is looking absolutely sick. So to me, they're still the best team.
All right, it's a wild stat coming out of the game on Saturday. James Franklin's now 1-15 against teams in the top 5. That's crazy.
That's crazy. That's just woo.
I mean, they don't win big games. It's ever.
Yeah, I mean that's over how many years? Like 10, 11 years?
Yeah, it's a long enough sample size to know that's an issue. And the crazy part is, if he were coaching at Michigan or Ohio State, he'd be fired. But at Penn State, that's okay. And I think Franklin's a good coach. It's just weird how you get certain teams, certain coaches in these big game scenarios, and they just never find a way to get over the hump.
Yeah, and he's lost enough too where you were the favorite or you at home. The whole whiteout thing, like everyone made a big deal about the whiteout deal, but they're now 13-9 at home in these whiteout games, right? So it's probably a tough environment, but it's clearly not insurmountable, right? 13-9 in this kind of situation. Still doesn't mean Oregon didn't do something impressive, but let's just be a little realistic. So I don't know. I mean, what do you do? Like, he wins 10 games every year. You're in the mix every year. Do you fire him if he, quote-unquote, can't win the big one, or you just ride the consistency and hope that at some point it pops? Harbaugh was getting ripped for that for a while, and all of a sudden he broke through and won the national title. Whether we think he cheated or not, I don't know. But, he did finally beat Ohio
I think he
State
definitely cheated.
So.
There's no question. He was very defiant. But, yeah, he cheated. He did. But we also know that two things can be true. He cheated, and he's a great coach.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
Oh, by the way,
you're not cheating, you're not trying, right?
That's right. That's right. The old saying: if you're not cheating, you're not trying. So where are you at with the Bears right now? 2-2, coming off the win over the Raiders. Caleb Williams playing better today than he was, in Game 1. So what do you think? Where are you at with the Bears?
I'm cautiously optimistic. I was hoping for 9-7 coming in. We're on pace to probably pull that off. Caleb, to me, is looking nice, man. You got to give QBs time to grow, and he's growing. He's got 28 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, or something like that.
Yeah,
in
that's
his
not bad.
Career so far. I mean, he's on the right trajectory, and not everyone just comes out, guns a-blazing like, Marino did, or even Mahomes had to sit a year or sat a year. Aaron Rodgers sat for some time. Brett Favre sat for some time. Montana sat. Brady sat. Most of the greats of all time sat. Your boy Elway, he struggled early. That's just par for the course. And so I have never been worried about him at all because I love the interception total. We were just talking about Dante Moore, right? Don't make crazy mistakes that hurt your team. Sometimes, he takes some sacks. He did a lot last year. But I'd rather take some sacks while you're learning than throwing up, 15, 20 picks. I like where they're at right now.
You brought up Dan Marino. I still think the 1984 season where he had a QB rating of 108.9, threw for over 5,000 yards, 48 touchdowns, and 17 interceptions in 16 games back in 1984. That's an all-timer right there. In 84, Aaron.
That's ridiculous. It was science fiction. It was something that you're not supposed to see happen. Yeah, that's given the era, to me, that's still the most impressive season ever because it was something that, other than Fouts with the Air Coryell, they put up some nice numbers too, but still, Marino doing it in his second season with Duper and Clayton and that more. God, we're old. Anyway,
our generation, though, you have to admit, our generation, Aaron, we're spoiled with the athletes we got to grow up with, man. It's unbelievable.
Oh, definitely.
In all sports. We got Gretzky in hockey, MJ in the NBA, and we had friggin' Montana, Marino, and Elway in the NFL.
And Griffey and Bonds.
And Griffey and
baseball.
Bonds. Yeah. It's pretty good. Well, dude, you're the man. I'm so jealous, dude. You put out some great pictures, good coverage of the game in Penn State, and you're right, the Indiana game is going to be awesome. But I love catching up with you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, talk to you later.
There you go. Aaron Fentress.
Bye.
Love it. Yeah, that was good. And he's right, man. The composure, sometimes being a great quarterback means, just playing the way the game is unfolding, meaning you don't force the ball, you be smart, understanding your defense is dominating. This is a game we're going to win with the run game and defense. I'll make a couple of plays, but I'm not going to make the big mistake and put us behind the eight ball, and he didn't. And Dante Moore just looked focused, unfazed. I was like, is he nervous? No, he's not. In fact, not only is he not nervous, he's ready for the moment. That's pretty big balls right there. He stepped in and went big balls in front of the wideout, and we got to watch Penn State melt down again. He brings up a good point, though. It's like, if you beat Penn State in a big game in their building, is it a big win? They lose all of them. It actually, maybe we misread the Penn State game. Maybe it was one of the easier games on the schedule. You get James Franklin at a big game in a big spot at home, you're going to win. And what sucks for James Franklin, he's a cool dude, but that's his record. He's 1-15. He is literally the guy who can't win the big game. Ever. It sucks. Sports is so great, man. You are what your record says you are. And people remember those numbers. And the Ducks got the big win. And now they get ready for Indiana. It's just hard for me. There's certain football teams, like when they're good, if they're basketball schools, it's hard for me to wrap my mind around it. It's like, wait, what? Indiana? What is Bob Knight coaching them? Oh, no, it's football. Okay. I guess they have a good football team. Coach Cigarette or Signetti. How does he pronounce it, Signetti? He's a good coach.
Chad, I love Fentress coming in with the Tears for Fears to kick off that interview. That was awesome, man.
I respect Fentress when it comes to music. He and I grew up in the same era, so his musical takes are pretty solid. He and I always argue, too, about the number one selling album of all time because it's the Eagles' greatest hits, Volume 1, 1971 to 75. He says it's Thriller, but the Eagles have held that mantle for quite some time, and that frustrates Aaron. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Joe Cronin at 5, right after Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. Your chance to win Trailblazer tickets coming up in 21 minutes here on the Rip City Drive. All right, checking the scoreboard right now. Bottom of 6 in New York. The Yankees on top of the Red Sox by a score of 1-0. Tigers over the Guardians today in Cleveland, 2-1. They take game 1. Tarek Skubal was a freak. 14 strikeouts to set a new Tigers record that was 53 years old. And I think he clocked over 100 miles per hour 11 times. That guy's a filthy human being. Skubal is filthy. And then the Cubs over the Padres. I hate the Padres, so I was happy to see that. I don't really care for Chicago too much, but very happy to see the Pods go down. And then you got the Reds and Dodgers coming up at 6 o'clock. The Mariners are not going to be in action until Saturday. And I was like listening to people today on the golf course. I was overhearing some conversations. A lot of people concerned about the layoff of the M's. What's wrong with some time off? They play 162 games for crying out loud. Never done that, but I'm guessing your body doesn't feel exactly great when you're done with the season. I think it's awesome that the M's are going to be able to get some time off, rest, recuperate, get their pitching staff in order, get Cal Raleigh some rest, and then when they take the field, they can go out there and kick some ass. And that's what I expect them to do. I think the Mariners are a great team now. They've got the defense, the pitching, and now we just got to depend on the bats to come up with some timely hitting. They're going to be fine. But I'm always going to take rest. I understand that rust could be a factor. Could. But it doesn't mean that because you get time off that rust is going to enter in. It doesn't have to be that way. I'm just always going to take rest. I think there's an advantage to that. You get rest. You get a chance to, refresh yourselves, get mentally geared up, and then boom, you're ready to play. And they'll be at home. So we'll take a look at the wild card, see what the matchups are going to be. But so far, so good. You can reach out to me, 503-248-0620. At 5 o'clock, 12 minutes away, we're going to give away a pair of Trailblazer tickets. It is the very first Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday of the season, and it's something that we do each and every Tuesday throughout the entire basketball season. Your chance to win tickets right here in your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. We're going to give away tickets to every single Trailblazer home game. That's all. And so you got to be pretty geeked up on that. The Trailblazers are going to take on the Kings at Motor Center coming up on the 10th. So just a little over a week away. What is that? The 3rd is a Friday. A week from that would be the 10th. So I think it's a week from Friday, if my math is correct. Blazers and Kings, your chance to see this new group of dudes for the very first time. I'm most excited about the continuity. The majority of guys who were on the roster last year are back. You add in a couple of pieces like Dame and, of course, Drew Holiday. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. So the Blazers and Kings, we'll give those away coming up at 5. And then you're going to hear my conversation with Joe Cronin, the Blazers general manager. And then Alex Brink, former Coug. And with E4 Sports, our college football and NFL insider is going to join the show at 5:20. But I was looking through the schedule. It's like, yay. I guess we can't survive 2 weekends in a row like we had last weekend. Is that too much? Because last weekend was between college football and the NFL starting on Friday. All the way throughout the weekend, it was fabulous. Simply amazing. I watched so much football, and I couldn't get tired of it. All right, here's the slate. Nothing good on Thursday or Friday. Multiple games. Sam Houston and New Mexico State on Thursday on CBS Sports Network. Unless you're a gambler, that game is no need to watch. On Friday, Western Kentucky and Delaware. Had no idea that Delaware had a football team. Charlotte and South Florida, New Mexico and San Jose State. West Virginia, and BYU. Colorado State and San Diego State. So really nothing exciting on Thursday or Friday. The Saturday slate, decent game at 9 on ABC. Kentucky is at Georgia. And, of course, the Bulldogs trying to regroup after their loss to Bama. At 9 o'clock on ESPN2, a very good game. Number 14, Iowa State, 5-0, coming off their home win over Arizona. They travel to Cincinnati to take on a very feisty Bearcats team. Cincinnati right now favored by 1.5. That's a very good game inside the Big 12. At 9 o'clock on Fox, if you don't like offense or the forward pass, check out Wisconsin and Michigan. The Wolverines right now 3-1, ranked 20th. At 9 on the Big Ten Network, number 22, Illinois, coming off the win over USC at Purdue. hideous. At 9 o'clock on the ACC network, Boston College against Pittsburgh. Clemson, North Carolina, ESPN at 9, hideous. And then a game where we're going to see points at 9 on ESPN Plus, Kansas State at Baylor. Air Force and Navy, Army and UAB, Ohio and Ball State. That's your 9 o'clock slate. Nothing fancy except for Iowa State, Cincinnati. So you have one game in the 9 o'clock hour in that window to watch. Outside of that, there's not much. Penn State at UCLA, 12:30 on CBS. Horrific game. Now, 12:30 on ESPN, this is a good one. Number 9, Texas is at Florida. And we'll see if Arch Manning can play respectable football, but that's a game that I think the Gators can probably get. Texas favored by 6.5. Also at 12:30 on ABC, one of the better games all day. Number 16, Vandy at number 10, Alabama. Vanderbilt 5-0, Bama 3-1, and of course the Crimson Tide looking for revenge after what took place last year. And right now, Bama favored by 10.5. Boise State, Notre Dame, Virginia's at Louisville. The Cardinal 4-0, Virginia 4-1, coming off the victory against Florida State. That would seem like a primetime letdown spot for the Cavs. Washington and Maryland, hideous. Oregon State at App State. There's just not many games. Kent State, Oklahoma, hideous. Michigan State, Nebraska on FS1 at 1 is okay. Decent matchup in the Big Ten, decent. Texas Tech is at Houston. The interesting part about this, the Red Raiders ranked 11th, coming off the win over Utah on the road at Houston, and the Cougars coming off the win over the Beavs, both teams at 4-0. The matchup of the day is number 3, Miami at number 18, Florida State. 4-0 Canes against the 3-1 Seminoles, 4:30 on ABC. Mississippi State and Texas A&M. Also Colorado at TCU. Both those games at 4:30, decent. Also Kansas at UCF, decent. And that's pretty much your slate. 2 later games at 7:30, Duke and Cal, Nevada, Fresno State. What I'm trying to say is that there's a couple of good games, but nothing like we had last weekend. All right, we'll come back. Your chance to win Trailblazer tickets against the Kings coming up October 10th. And then you'll hear my conversation with Joe Cronin here on the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, what's going on? It's now 5 o'clock. Chad here. And we're going to start with the Major League scoreboard with the wild card games in action. Right now, top of the 7th in New York. The Yankees lead the Red Sox 1-0 in Game 1. Earlier finals, Tigers topped the Guardians in Cleveland 2-1 to take Game 1. Skubal had 14 strikeouts, breaking a 53-year-old Tigers record. He also hit 100 miles per hour or eclipsed it 11 times. And the Cubs over the Padres by a score of 3-1. Coming up later on tonight, 6 o'clock, first pitch on ESPN. The Reds and Dodgers from Dodger Stadium, Game 1. From the NFL, bad news for the Dolphins coming off their first win of the year. Tyreek Hill dislocated his knee, underwent successful surgery today, but will miss the rest of the season. Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday, the first edition of the season, coming up next. All right, my friends, every Tuesday, it's Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday here on the Rip City Drive. Courtesy of me and your Portland Trailblazers, we're going to give away tickets to every single Trailblazers home game. And the first one's going to be October 10th, a week from Friday, the Trailblazers and Kings. And so we're going to give away a pair of tickets right now, and then we're going to hear my conversation with Joe Cronin. So if you would like a pair of tickets for the Trailblazers and Kings coming up a week from Friday on October 10th, we'll take caller number 5 in honor of Dante Moore for his gutsy performance in the win over Penn State. Fire away right now, 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620. If you want tickets, Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday, Blazers and Kings, October 10th at Moda Center. Call now, 503-248-0620. I want to hear from a Blazers fan. 503-248-0620. Hit me up now. Fire away. Your chance to win Trailblazer tickets is right now, and it will be every Tuesday throughout the entire basketball season. Trailblazers Ticket Tuesday, courtesy of me and your Portland Trailblazers. 503. Fire away! Call now! Your chance to win! I almost sounded like the audio source guy. He's like my favorite commercial guy ever. I saw one of his commercials the other night, and I'm like, he still talks like that. It's amazing. 503-248-0620. Call now. Your chance to win. Every Tuesday. Just write it down. Make a note. Rip City Drive every Tuesday. Your chance to win tickets from me and your Portland Trailblazers. Every single Tuesday. 503-248-0620. All right, Trailblazers General Manager Joe Cronin doing a lot of work this summer. Drew Holiday was acquired. They drafted Young Hansen from China. He got Dame back in a Trailblazer uniform. And, the first thing I asked him was, what was the spark that allowed the conversations to take place to get Dame back in a Trailblazer uniform? And here's what he had to say. Joe, talk to me.
It all happened so quickly, and something you can't really prepare for, like for Dame to become a free agent when he did, Milwaukee waiving him and pivoting like they did. It just all happened so fast that it was once he cleared waivers, okay, like how do we get really proactive here? And he and his agent and I connected right away and, had some very basic conversations and right away teed it up. Okay, let me and Dame get together, and us two just started talking. And Dame and I had, multiple meetings over the course of the next. Really, we took 2 weeks. We took our time. We knew there was mutual interest. We thought something could happen. We just wanted to talk it out all the way, make sure all of our goals were aligned. And the more we talked, it just became clearer and clearer that was going to work. And connected Dame with Chauncey. They had a couple good sit downs as well. And everything made sense. So happened fast, but very organically and smoothly and naturally. And couldn't be more excited about having Dame back here.
You know what's great is the majority of Blazer fans I've spoken with, they don't even care what he does on the floor at this point forward. They're just happy to have him back,
Yep.
you know, because of the connection between Dame and the team and the town and Rip City.
Exactly. His impact, you know, everywhere he goes, you know, obviously walking through our building for the first time, you know, when we did the press conference, it was so cool, you know, seeing him go be at a table with us. And it was so cool seeing him walk back into the locker room and have his locker right there for him, and having him in the practice facility every day. It's incredible. You know, he's where he belongs, like we were saying. And it just, 2 weeks ago, we did a big welcome back rally for Dame, and thousands of people showed up. It was loud. It was electric. It was incredible.
Yeah.
And
They packed Pioneer Courthouse Square on an NFL Sunday.
they did.
It was awesome.
It was awesome. And it just shows, you know, the love that Dame has from these fans, from this community. And we just are on cloud nine having Dame back in our world.
Gosh, it's awesome. Joe Cronin with us here on Trailblazer Media Day. Drew Holiday is back in Portland. What I'm most curious about here, what I've been telling people, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, is from my understanding, when he was originally acquired in the Dame trade, you and Chauncey made an effort to sit down with him, and you have a good relationship with him. You're like, hey, we're not going to use you right now. We want to move you, but we want to help you get to a spot that's going to benefit you. So that process goes through. He winds up in Boston, which was a great spot for him, and he wins a championship. And then when he comes back around, how much did that relationship and what you had done together before help with the reacquisition of Drew this time around?
Yeah, I think it definitely helped. You know, there was a mutual respect that,
Yes.
I mean, him and Chauncey, they had known each other for a long, long time. So that part was easy. But just the respect that Drew acquired through that original process when we traded him to Boston, that he acquired for the organization and myself, I think it established a trust level that he was really comfortable with. And then you combine that with a young, capable, up-and-coming roster that was intriguing to him, and I think those two things made this, you know, a happy occasion for him.
I mean, he's going to help you guys win basketball games right now, isn't he?
He is. He's, I mean, a really capable player, and one we think fits tremendously well with our roster. You know, obviously, over the years, I've talked a lot about, you know, we're not going to be ready until we're talented enough, you know, and Drew absolutely is a talent addition, but we become more and more, as we've improved and as we continue to take steps, we've become more and more focused on adding the right type of guy, the right fit with our roster. And for us, Drew's perfect. You know, he's a really capable two-way player. I mean, obviously still an elite defender, but I mean, very, very competent on the offensive side as well. But with Drew, he doesn't need the ball to be successful. He's very capable with the ball,
Yeah.
but he can also play off the ball. And for us, that was intriguing, especially with the quality ball handlers that we have. Danny Avdia, Shaden Sharp, Scoot Henderson. Like, Scoot can play with these guys and fit seamlessly with them. And Drew can, I should have said, can seamlessly play with these guys. And for us, that's really exciting.
Yeah, I love that. He can play on ball, he can be off ball, and that allows all the other guys to continue to facilitate the way they have. I'm a big fan of Drew, and I would imagine, too, that when you have a younger core that maybe isn't as expensive based on where guys are at, does that help you when bringing on a bigger deal like Drew?
It does. The success of our young guys and the way we've teed up our books, it allowed us to take on, you know, a bigger contract with Drew.
Yeah.
And that's one of the luxuries, you know, you see it like in football as well, where, you know, when you have the rookie scale quarterback, those teams are often pretty good because they're able to spend elsewhere. And we have so many guys on rookie scale, you know, first round pick or second round pick contracts. It allows us to be a little more aggressive in acquiring, you know, vets that we think fit what we're trying to build.
We're talking to Joe Cronin. Young Hansen, drafted from China. I love what Chauncey Billups said during your press conference after the selection on draft night, where he said basketball is a universal language. And I hadn't thought of it like that, but it makes sense, right, where he may not be able to speak English fluently with his teammates, but basketball players, when they're on the basketball floor, they're never speaking. It's almost like a lot of it's unspoken. They just know what to do. And when he explained it like that, I was like, this process may be a lot easier than what I originally thought.
Yeah, I think so. And we saw it in Summer League. I thought, you know, he had been in America, you know, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And, yeah, doesn't speak the language very well yet. But on the court, you couldn't really tell. And throughout Summer League, we saw him directing traffic, which, that is a universal thing. It's okay. I catch at the high post here. I need you to go screen away. That's a point, and for him, of course, basketball is a universal language. And then with him, with such an incredible basketball IQ and feel, it makes it that much easier.
Do you expect any G League time for Hansen, or is he going to spend his time with the team throughout the year?
It's possible. It'll depend on what his role is with the Trailblazers. We think he has a good chance of cracking our rotation and getting quality minutes early on. If he doesn't, I'll be very mindful of getting him as much development as possible. So if we're not seeing him get enough reps with the Blazers, we're very open-minded to the remix. But if it's going well with the Blazers, we'll just leave it be. So really just depends on the role he earns with us and the amount of reps he's getting with the Blazers.
All right, you guys had a tremendous finish to the season. I think second half of the year you were basically top 5 defense. What I'm curious about, I was thrilled when you and Chauncey both got new deals, because I'm a big believer in continuity. So I'm wondering, how much does that help to have basically the same core, and especially the young guys that we're all excited about, come back with the same head coach, they understand the system. That should promote to continue the type of defensive success that we saw at the end of last year, right?
Absolutely. The cohesion, it's an important part. We did the original Dame trade. It was the anniversary was 2 years ago on Saturday. And that year we had brought in, I don't even know the exact number, but it was at least 5 rookies or first-year players, and I think 7 or 8 new players overall. And cohesion and chemistry really matters. Like, they were all a good group of guys, but they had never played together. They were learning a new system. It was somewhat chaotic that whole season. And to be able to, we're returning 12 of our 15, and, one new addition is Drew Holiday, who will pick up everything very, very quickly.
Yeah.
The other is Young Hansen, who will do the same because he's, obviously he's a rookie. He's got things to learn, but again, the basketball IQ is high. But to seamlessly add these guys, along with these, we've added a lot of new assistant coaches as well. But the cohesion of the roster and what they were established identity-wise last year, we expect that to be very seamless and hopefully hit the ground running as we roll the ball out tomorrow.
All right, thought process on the Scoot hamstring injury. Is there great concern there, or is it just a matter of needing some time to deal with it? Is he going to be okay?
Yep, he's going to be fine.
Okay.
It's, of course, disappointing. He had an awesome offseason.
Yeah, I was hoping the young guys, you want them to get out there and play right away.
You want him to get out and play right away. And I was just in my press conference, and I didn't even realize it until 2 days ago, but this is the third year in a row. 2 years ago, Anthony Simon's first game, thumb surgery, so he missed about 25 games. Last season, Shaden Sharp, first practice, shoulder. He missed the first 10 games. This year, Scoot. So we're not new to this, and it's funny looking back. I don't really remember those guys, Anthony and Shaden, being out a whole long time. So, it happens quickly and you recover pretty quickly. But in the near term, you look at it and you just feel bad for him. And, of course, it's a big loss for the Trailblazers. That's an important player on our roster. But concern-wise, no. It's just get him some rest, get him some rehab. We'll get him back up and running, in no time.
All right. What are your expectations for the team this year?
Yeah. To continue to launch off of last year, I thought that second half of the season, we played
good basketball.
Good basketball, yep. Above 500 ball.
How many? The amount of individual guys who improved defensively was impressive.
It was impressive, yep. And I think that's our challenge, to not stay stagnant and not take a step back from there. Defensively, we have to continue to ascend. Doing it over 82 games is a lot different than doing it over 41.
That's a great point.
And it's really what we're locked in on. We know that in order to be competitive, we have to get stops.
Yeah.
Our offense, while improving, is still not a strength. And defensively, we're really, really capable. And the way to improve our offense is to not have to play in the half court.
Yeah.
And the more stops we get, the more possessions we close out, the better chance we have of thriving offensively, which, of course, hopefully launches us into a different winning stratosphere.
Yeah, turnovers are a great way to create easy offense, as you know. All right, final thought. If I would have come up to you 2 years ago and said, hey, Joe, in just under 2 years, you're going to be re-signing Dame, you would have thought I was crazy.
Crazy. No chance. Not that we wouldn't have wanted to, but...
How icy was it between you and Dame 2 years ago?
Well...
Was it? I only know what was reported, but was it icy?
It was cold. I don't know if I would say it was icy. I think
So the bridges weren't burned.
They weren't burned, I
Okay.
don't think, because I think there was always a mutual respect.
Okay.
It was just one of those situations where we just were not on the same page.
Yeah.
And, over the course of that summer, it wasn't our most ideal setup between he and I. I don't
Yeah.
think it was icy. I know I've respect the hell out of him.
Yeah.
And I think it's mutual. Like, he and I had such a good relationship that it was definitely one where there wasn't enough scar tissue to recover from.
Gosh, that's awesome. All right, Joe Cronin, always great to catch up with you. I look forward to chatting with you throughout the year, but good luck this season. And, hey, you deserve props when you do good things, man. Your offseason was money. Home run, baby.
Thank you, Chad. Much appreciated.
All right, Joe Cronin, big thanks to him. That's a good dude right there. Excited about what they have, and especially with the young guys who have a chance to continue to develop. But a bummer about Scoot, though, because you talk to multiple people, or I heard from multiple people. Great offseason, and now that's going to be put on hold for just a bit as he recoups from the hamstring injury. A little update in the AL wild card, bottom of the 7th in New York. Red Sox have taken a 2-1 lead on the Yanks. Reds and Dodgers coming up at 6 on ESPN from Los Angeles. All right, when we come back, now we're really going to do a deep dive. Alex Sprink's a big fan of Dante Moore, so I'm sure he wasn't surprised at the way he performed in that game against Penn State. So we'll get insight from our college football and NFL insider, Alex Sprink, former Coug. He's coming up next. And props to Caitlin Kohler, who is the first winner of Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday out in Boring. Caitlin, nice work. Way to get it done. Every Tuesday, Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday, courtesy of your Portland Trailblazers here on the Rip City Drive. Alex Sprink up next. All right, Rip City Drive, my favorite time of the week. We have a chance to talk to our college football and NFL insider, former Coug, Alex Brink, who is with us. And Alex, you just dropped something crazy. I mean, you survived an emergency appendectomy, man. I'm glad you're okay.
Good, thank you. Yes, it was a wild 24 hours last Thursday and Friday, but we got it taken care of. The fine folks at Legacy Meridian took care of me, and I'm back on my feet.
All right, thank God you are here. And the good news is, out of all of that, you had a chance to watch a lot of football. We were just talking about the Washington State schedule coming up after the bye week. The Cougs right now 3-2 at number 4 Ole Miss, and then at number 24 Virginia. Ole Miss coming off a huge win over LSU, and then Virginia just upset Florida State. That is a brutal stretch, man. Jeez.
Yeah, and the 5 teams we played previously, when they're not playing the Cougs, they're 11-1. Can you believe that? San Diego State 3-1, North Texas 5-0, the Huskies 3-1. It's unbelievable. And then, like you said, we got Ole Miss and Virginia coming up. So Jimmy Rogers and the Cougs, tough schedule obviously this year, certainly so far.
Well, I'm looking forward to getting your reaction once you go to Ole Miss and have a chance to watch that game. I was impressed with Charlie Weiss Jr., that offense with Lane Kiffin and Trinidad Chambliss, the play design. Like, they look like a really good football team. And then Virginia was dynamite in that win on Friday night against Florida State. So a lot of different things I want to talk to you about. But let's start with this. Oregon goes into Penn State, a game that Penn State was preparing for all year, and they get the win in dramatic fashion in overtime. But let's start with Dante Moore. A lot of people are impressed with the way he performed in that game. I know it's not a surprise to you because you're a big fan of Dante Moore, but I thought the composure, he avoided the big mistake, and when he needed to make a play for his team, he did. I thought he was sensational. What was your takeaway from what Dante Moore was able to do against Penn State on the road?
Well, exactly what you said. He doesn't get phased, right? Like, that's the best thing about Dante Moore is that no moment is too big for him. Again, going back to my time getting to know him through Elite 11, I just felt like, he was able to stay really even-keeled at all times and, kind of to your point, makes the big play when the big play presents itself. And, that's what happened, right, in that Oregon game. When you think about that throw he made where he had to avoid a rush, step up, deliver a ball on the run late in the game. I mean, he made the play when you had to have it, right? When you look at the other side, obviously Drew Rowler did not make the play when he had to have it. And I think, at the highest levels of football, at the quarterback position, that one play in a game is the difference.
Yeah, that's where the pros, the big-time stars at quarterback make their money, right? It's like fourth quarter, usually third down. It's coming up with a way to move the chains or get the score when your team needs it. And I thought Dante Moore was great. The other thing that you and I talked about last week, Alex, would be that battle up front between Penn State's offensive line, might be the best in the country, Oregon's defensive front, which has played well. I thought if they won first and second down and put them in third and longer situations, they would win the game. I thought the defensive front was sensational pretty much throughout the game until Penn State made their late run. What did you think about their defensive game plan and the way they executed?
I just think, again, I mentioned it last week. I just think Dan Lane's been building Oregon for this moment, right? To go win on the road in the Big Ten or the SEC or wherever it is. He wants to win from the trenches, and he's built an identity. And I think defensively, they're really hard-nosed in the front seven, and it showed up, right? I thought they beat up Penn State early on, made it hard for them. You're never going to hold an offense like that down for 4 quarters, right? There was kind of inevitability to the Nittany Lions scoring or making a run at some point. And really it's like a basketball game, right? You got to be able to weather the storm and be able to manage that run. And I think that's kind of what Oregon did, right? They managed the run and then won it in overtime. And defensively, I just thought they stuck to their plan, right? They didn't try and do too much. Each guy did their job. They weren't trying to, they didn't overrun plays. They didn't get out of the gaps. And I think ultimately their physicality won.
All right. So what are your overall thoughts on Oregon right now? Clearly one of the best teams in the country. Are they good enough to compete with anyone? What's your take on what you see right now?
Personally, I think Oregon's the best team in the country. I mean, I think Ohio State, rightfully so, has, it is maybe ranked number 1, but, I think Ohio State has their flaws also. The Ohio State team we're seeing, this year is not the same team as last year, whereas I think the Oregon team might be better than the Oregon team we saw last year, frankly. And so, if it does come down to a matchup with them at some point in the championship game or wherever it is, Big Ten championship game or wherever, I think, in my opinion, Oregon's the number 1 football team in the country.
All right, you mentioned Ohio State. They get the win. against UW. Their defense was sensational. And, I guess with Ohio State right now, they're a team that's led by their defense. On that side of the ball, they've been phenomenal, and they got some great athletes. Offensively, they're still figuring things out. What'd you think about the way they were able to kind of suffocate that UW offense?
Their team speed definitely showed up. The safety position for Ohio State is just it's next level. So, no matter who they are up front, and I think they're really good up front, their second and third level defenders can just make up so much ground. So against, UW, who, they got a good running game, really athletic quarterback, and maybe are a little limited at the wide receiver position. I think that Ohio State defense matched up really, really well because, Jamon Williams, despite his athleticism, isn't going to typically outrun Caleb Downs and somebody else, right? And that's what he was running into all night.
All right, Alex, let's talk about the Oregon State Beavers, who are now 0-5. I got to be honest with you, I was sick to my stomach for Trent Bray and everyone involved in Beaver Nation after that game on Friday. They're up 24-10 with like 6.5 to go, and they blow the game and lose by a field goal. I was stunned, and once again, 3 games this year have been costly for them because the special teams, the gaffes, have cost them games. And, a lot of people want Trent Bray to make a change with the special teams coach, Jamie Christian. Trent Bray, I think, wants to keep the continuity and isn't so sure that making a change right now is, the best course of action. How do you weather this storm if you're Trent Bray?
Yeah, it's like you said, heartbreaking. Honestly, I really like Trent Bray and that staff. I felt like Oregon State had a chance to do some good things this year, and they got off to a horrendous start, and that's a really hard thing to kind of bounce back from, right, in a locker room. And it felt like through 3.5 quarters they kind of had it. They had it last week, and they had a chance to have a really, really good win, particularly at home. And I think at least last week to me was a little bit less about special. It came down to special teams, but I don't think it was special teams was the issue. I was just surprised that 10 minutes left, it really felt like they let off the gas. Right, defensively, it felt like they got a little bit complacent. Maybe played it a little safe. And same thing offensively, and I think they didn't keep their foot down. They didn't keep their foot on the pedal, and I think that was an issue. And then ultimately it came down to special teams, which is clearly their weak link. But look, special teams is players, not plays, right? Like guys have to make the kicks, guys have to make the snaps. The special teams coach can't do that for you, and so a lot of those changes are going to happen more, say, in the off season than in season.
We're talking to Alex Spring, former Coug, here on the RipCityDrive, our college football and NFL insider. How about that bounce back by Kalen DeBoer? You lose the opener to Florida State. You kind of right the ship. They went into Georgia. First trip to Athens since 2015, and they get the win. I thought that was pretty big time by Kalen DeBoer, a guy who you and I are both big fans of.
Yeah, it was big. And, Kalen DeBoer kind of went into a no-win situation at Alabama, obviously following Nick Saban.
Gosh.
Really catching the front end of, the NIL and transfer portal era, which is changing the dynamics for a place like Alabama and maybe changing what the expectation should be, say, for Alabama. And I thought that was a huge win for him. It was kind of classic Kalen DeBoer, really well game planned offensively. They finally got the defense, I think, firing on maybe not all cylinders, but firing in a way that they could go win. And hopefully that's maybe a springboard type of game for him and that staff and that program to kind of get back to what we think of as Alabama football.
Alex, have you been around Ty Simpson, the Bama quarterback?
I have. He was at Elite 11 a long time ago. He's a great story. Kind of classic coach's kid. Goes, really talented player, goes to Alabama and sits behind obviously some really good players over the last 4 years, and finally gets his chance. And it's rare that a kid like that would sit for that long, right? But he did, and I always thought he was pretty elite thrower of the football, and I think he's a really good fit for what Kalen DeBoer wants to do.
Yeah, I saw him make a couple of throws. So I was like, oh, that's why they like Ty Simpson. He looked good in that game, and just like Kalen DeBoer, nice bounce back after that loss to Florida State. All right, Jackson Dart, we talked about him getting his first start. He takes over for the Giants, and they beat the freaking L.A. Chargers, which is a big-time win because they were unbeaten going into the game. His numbers weren't gaudy, but he made some plays with his legs, and you could see the young energy he brought to that lineup. What did you think about Dart's first performance as a Giant?
You certainly felt like energy is a good word to describe it. I think back to when I first saw Jackson Dart when he was at USC playing in Washington State. He came in, I think he filled in for a game at Washington State, maybe came off the bench and won that game. And, was always a really, kind of crafty player, a guy that made a lot of big plays. Didn't always look maybe pretty or smooth, but he seemed to make a lot of plays. And I think that kind of creativeness, is really what wins in the NFL these days. You think about the best of the quarterbacks in the NFL. They're really creative players. They make plays off schedule. They're able to use their legs, and Jackson Dart has all those tools. Also, an incredibly high confidence individual, and I think that comes from all the way back to high school and then through college and getting with Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss and having success there. And, obviously now some young energy in New York. I thought it was a really good first start and beat a really good Chargers football team.
I was so bummed to see Malik Neighbors go down with that knee injury because I love watching him play, and I thought, man, it would be nice to have him out there so he and Dart can develop that chemistry. But he does have some help. My guy Cam Scatterboo right now, according to Pro Football Focus, Alex, highest-rated running back in the NFL. He's out there, just making plays like he did at ASU. Man, I love the guy. And like Dart, he's bringing some youthful energy into that offense. What do you think about the way Scat's playing so far?
It goes back to, I don't know about a theory I have, but just kind of like, if you watch enough football, right, from the high school level through college and the pros, there's some guys that you watch that they just find a way to get it done, right? They just find they're always productive. And Scatterboo was, you go back to high school, in a pretty high level of California high school football was, the state's leading rusher, right? He's one of the all-time leading rushers in the state of California. Like, he's a guy that has always been productive. And then he's under-recruited, and then he gets his chance to go from Sac State to Arizona State, and he's productive again. And, it turns in, and now he's doing it again in the NFL. It just feels like, he's a guy that's kind of willing his way into it and in the best possible way. And so I've been really impressed. He runs so hard. I mean, that's the running back position in the NFL. I mean, 70% of it is if you got enough physical tools, is just how hard you run, right? Can you break a few tackles and get to the second level? And I don't think anybody runs harder than he does in that league.
Oh, I love it so much. The other guy that jumped out at me this weekend, and I know you know this, but Matthew Stafford can still sling it. I was concerned about him going into the year because he took basically the entire camp off, and he had the back injury, but he appears to be right. I watched him in that game against the Colts on Sunday, and I mean, at his age, like, I would imagine you enjoy watching a guy like that operate because the game is slowing down. He understands everything that's going on in the field, and he's still got the arm strength to put the ball wherever he wants. The guy's unbelievable.
100%. And you think about these guys, right? Whether it's Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, and even Joe Flacco, even though he's not playing great or not in a great situation. Going back, you keep going back to these guys that play for a long time, and think about how easy they make the quarterback position look, right? You mentioned it. Like, Stafford didn't do anything all offseason and rolls into week one, and he's super productive and leading the team. Aaron Rodgers did very little in the offseason. Same thing, like, really productive. That's how good these players are. That's how long they've played. That's how well they know the league, that they can just step in and go execute. It is nearly impossible to do.
Oh, I forgot to ask. Did you have a chance to watch any of the Bronco game last night and see Bo Nix?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I thought he looked better. He had that horrendous pick in the end zone, but for the most part, he had that great 2-minute drill before the end of the half, made some good throws. He was on schedule, and I like it because Sean Payton committed to running the football, and they got J.K. Dobbins and some other guys involved. But that offense looked a little bit smoother in terms of the operation compared to the first 3 weeks. What'd you see?
Yeah, I think for Bo Nix and the Broncos, they really need to have. I like the mix of Dobbins and R.J. Harvey getting more involved last night. I think that really helps. I think for Bo Nix, if you think about the Broncos, they don't really have a true number one wide receiver, kind of Cortland Sutton, but he doesn't always show up in that way. And then you got the young guys, and so I think they're trying to figure out in the pass game kind of what is it, right? And right now, what it has to be is it has to be built off of a quality running game. I think early on the hope was maybe Bo Nix could carry that offense, and the reality is he's still not quite there, and maybe not because of him, but maybe because they don't have the pieces around him yet for that. So last night I thought was a good example of what this offense could be.
All right, Alex Brink, also with E4 Sports. Talk to me about a place you gave me the tour of, E-Force Baseball at the Yard Baseball Academy, where you guys are hitting, pitching training for young athletes.
Yeah, at eForce Baseball, we do a lot of incredible off-season development for young baseball athletes. 2 facilities, one in Beaverton off Allen Boulevard, and then one in Milwaukee off of McLaughlin. We think batting cages, one-on-one training, lessons for hitting, pitching, fielding. We do camps and classes for young players. If you're out of school on a day, if school's not in session, we usually have a camp running. So check out the yardbba.com or e4sports.com. You click on the baseball tab, learn more about all of what we have going for our baseball training.
All right, Alex Brink has shown toughness this week. He survived the emergency appendectomy, and now you get a chance to get the bye week before your trip to Ole Miss. Like, did you make the decision to go yourself, or was your wife like, dude, you got to go to the emergency room? What's going on with you?
It was a little bit of a combination of both, honestly, but ultimately I pulled the trigger because I was in a lot of pain. I was like, I got to go.
Oh, the other thing I was going to give you props on, I know it pains you as a former Coug, and you work with Ryan DePaulo, who is a Duck honk. For you to admit that the Ducks right now are probably the best team in the country, I know that's a legit take because it pains you to say that.
There's no doubt about it. But, you got to give credit where credit is due.
Yeah, Lanning's coaching his ass off. Alex, you're the best, man. We'll talk next week.
All right, thanks, Chad.
All right, there you heard it from Alex Brink. He thinks the Ducks right now the best team in the country. We'll keep things rolling. Rip City Drive. I appreciate your time. And don't forget, Rip City Drive back tomorrow at 3 o'clock here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Well, all it takes is one day, and you realize why playoff baseball is so great. Red Sox and Yankees in a battle at Yankee Stadium right now. Top of the ninth, Red Sox with a 2-1 lead on the Yankees in game one. The Reds and Dodgers coming up at 6 from Dodger Stadium. And then earlier today, the Cubs over the Padres 3-1 in Chicago. And the Tigers get a terrific performance from Skubal as they top the Guardians 2-1. 14 strikeouts for Skubal. Ridiculous. And Crochet just set a career mark with 117 pitches, going nearly 8 innings of work. What a performance for him. He was tough. And then they just brought in Chapman. So we'll see what the Yankees can do when they get to the bottom of the ninth. Love playoff baseball. So good. And the Mariners, they'll kick off their postseason coming up on Saturday. If you want to reach out to me, you can do so. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. That's how you reach the show. You can find me on X at Chad and Rip City. And, of course, you can always listen live and podcast via our free iHeartRadio app. And we found our first winner today for Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday, and we'll do it every Tuesday throughout the entire basketball season. So that's going to be pretty sweet. But that's what's going on. First preseason game for the Blazers will come up on October 8th. And then their first home game in the preseason will be October 10th. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Let's go out to Eddie in Vancouver, my man. Eddie, what's going on, brother? What's on your mind?
Man, Chad, what's up, my friend? What is up?
It's all good.
So, Chad, I'm married. I've been married for 16 years. My wife is someone who's not a big sports fan. You know, I'll be watching like the NFC playoffs, and she'll be like, "You're watching that? That's not even your team." You know. And then during the summer, dude, there was like I was watching marbles. She was like, "You'll watch anything," and she's exactly right. I was watching marbles. I was watching roof football with Travis Demers, Chad. But anyway, to make a long story short, when my kids get ready for school in the morning, I put the TV on music videos, and the Whitney Houston "One Moment in Time" video was on, and my wife goes, "That's like her worst song." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? The 1988 World Series, the Dodgers, like if you saw the game and it was over, the last game, and they showed all the highlights from the series, it was so, you know, after in a season that has been so improbable, the impossible just happened, you know." And then they followed it up with the Whitney Houston "One Moment in Time" video. As a, you know, sophomore in high school in 1988, you know, I'm 3 years older than you. And if I was the same because you tried, I'd been hanging out with you because you're cool like that, man. But anyway, you know, I would dream after that, you know, video. I went outside, started throwing the ball. You know, I'm 5'7", I play baseball, but I was the guy who went in the water cooler filled with ice and Gatorade and taking score, you know. But anyway, man, that song used to make you dream, you know. But I just want to hear what your perspective was on that song. Remember that World Series? And
I do, and you got to let your wife know. I let her know that I respect her, but her Whitney Houston take on "One Moment in Time" is a bad take. It's a bad. I
know.
It's a great song, and that's one of those songs that gives you chills. And I think that was a top 10 hit. I think that was like a number 5 hit for Whitney. So it's yeah, but I think what happens is for people like you and I, and other sports fans, when you take songs that are attached to sporting events or it was involved in the broadcast of a sporting event, and we had a chance to watch it and consume it when we were younger, then it means much more to us. Just like one shining moment from Luther Vandross with the March Madness tournament, you know, with basketball every year. Or I remember at the end of the 87 finals, after the Lakers beat the Celtics, they used Steve Winwood
back in the high life.
Back in the high life. They used that at the end of the finals.
And I went outside, man, Chad. That's what made me start liking basketball.
Dude, it's amazing that you remember that. I can't believe you remember that. They used back in the high life.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So that song,
and I wanted that Steve Winwood album right for that. I wanted that for my birthday.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's stuff like that. When they take songs and they mix it in with our sports, it means more to us. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But trying to explain sports greatness to a non-sports fan, it's very hard for them to understand that.
Yeah.
But what is she into? So if your wife's not into sports, like what's her thing?
Real Housewives of for real. Real Housewives, Big Brother. You know, I can do Big Brother a little bit. I ain't gonna lie, because I use that to be to the dog days of summer. You know, that was my little thing. But
dude, you have to admit, the summertime is brutal when we were jonesing for like football or something, and we ain't got nothing. Man, it's the worst.
It was hard. I wanted to call you so bad when football started, because I was literally watching marbles. They have marbles on ESPN, like a marble racing.
Yeah, and the roof ball.
You know what I mean?
Dude, the roof ball stuff that Travis did at the time, like that's taken on like a cult following. He did a good job with that.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah.
But that's the thing, man. It's like like baseball. I love baseball, but regular season baseball in the summer, like compared to what I'm watching right now with the Yankees and Red Sox, playoff baseball is on a completely different level. It's in a different stratosphere.
I'm telling you. And then back to another song. Remember the Cardinals and the Texas Rangers, Paradise, when Freeze got home run?
Yeah.
And they did a Coldplay Paradise.
Yeah.
And that was, and then my father-in-law, rest in peace, Chad, he was awesome for you to love this dude. You know what I mean? And his short game was the, you know what? And, but the Cardinals was his team. And that, you know, with that song, Paradise, man, I know he was really loving it, man. He was a true diehard Cardinal fan. Matter of fact, he was buried with his Cardinals uniform, and we know Cardinals jersey and everything. So,
well, I tell you what, man.
Yeah, Mr. Ken Reister.
The fact that you know or knew when I brought it up that they played Steve Winwood at the end of the '87 finals.
Man.
You're my guy. You're my brother from another mother. I can't believe you knew that.
Man, I'm trying to tell you, bro. I would have hung out with you in high school, man. I'm 3 years older than you, you know. But
we would have been watching and doing the same things.
Yeah.
You are me. I am you.
Yep. Yeah, but then too, when you were talking about the I'm gonna be there, you know what I mean? Like that's my jam too, man.
I love it. Yeah.
You know, there's some good songs, and then Chad too. The top 5. That's hard to think of what your top 5 is, though.
I know.
I still remember your, but I've been working on it.
I want to put you to the test. Still. I want you to do it because I forced Curtis and the captain to do it. I want you to come up with the top 5 and then call me back when you have it and deliver it on air because you got to go through it. It's really hard, but I want you to do it. It's a good exercise.
It is. Absolutely.
All right, brother.
I've been thinking. All right. Thank you, man. Good. You know, thanks for what you're doing, man. I love you, man. It's that time, man. You're a hard-working man in this time of year, Chad. So here we go, buddy.
I appreciate it, man.
Our ears are listening. We love you, man. These airwaves, we love you out here.
All right. Love you, brother. There's Eddie in Vancouver. He's the man. That is a bad take. His wife had a bad take on Whitney. That's not cool. Big thanks to Brendan Slaughter. Big thanks to Alex Brink, Aaron Fentress. And congratulations to our first winner of Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday, Caitlin. And we'll be back tomorrow at 3. I appreciate your time right here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio.